things, back last year when pandemic hit, I paint abstract. So I started using pictures of my abstract paintings as my virtual backgrounds. But I only have so many of those physical paintings. So I started making them digitally.
Mhm.
And for a while, I was pretty much doing them almost every day. And then I started posting them for people. And I asked people, what do you see? Because they're pretty much abstract. Most of them are, you can't tell what it was originally. And a lot of times I do start with a picture of something real, and then it morphs into something else. I either add color or I just kind of apply all different effects to it. And I like the color. So if I like the way it looks, then that's it.
So, in addition to being the introvert that you are, and I see Brenda's here too, how did you actually get into the art? Because I know you have a background as a software developer. So, how did this whole thing actually start?
So I've actually been into art my entire life. Thank God for the public school systems teaching art. And so I always, forever. But when it came time for deciding on what to go to college for, I said, well, I want to pretty much be assured of being able to make a good living. So I was good in math. And my brothers suggested, oh, why don't you go for computer science? So I did. And it wasn't that my parents pushed me into it. My dad was a teacher. We didn't have a lot. And I said, well, I'd really like to just be able to have more in life. So I did that. And I did take art all through college. I took, all sorts of ceramics and whatever. And I did paper making. That was actually a lot of fun. We would make molds, and then we would push the pulp into the mold. And when it dried, you had, various shaped paper items. So I've always done art. Then I started working, and I really didn't do much for a bunch of years. But a friend of ours, so we used to run a pub crawl in Manhattan, and it all started out in college. We had depending on what year you graduated, like I graduated in 88, they had an 88 days to graduation pub crawl. So a few years out of college, a couple of alumni, Rensselaer alumni in New York, did a bar crawl, kind of in honor of what we did, during senior year. And they started it. They did a second one about 6 months later. And we ended up doing them for more than 20 years.
So I got to ask you, because I don't know how many people know about your Iggy's Curiosity Shop. That's one of those things which, it's not too far from where I live in Midland Park. And I would love to get down there at one point. And I think it reminds me of a lot of the stuff that I have in my house and I've collected over the years. So what exactly do you do there? Or what exactly is that shop?
So it is a shop. We have antiques, we have collectibles, we have all sorts of fun stuff. We like to say we have the stuff you never knew you had to have. We have a lot of stuff packed into our 500 square foot shop. And it all started with my husband and I went into an antique store. We bought an antique barber chair, and they ended up, the owner of the shop ended up needing it back because the family she got it from, whose estate sale it was, they said, oh, we want our dad's chair back. So she gave us a credit. We started talking to her. She had an estate sale. We went to it. Next thing you know, we were hooked on going to estate sales and collecting cool stuff. And years later, we ended up opening a shop with a lot of our surplus, and it's fun because, yes, a lot of it takes you down memory lane, things that you may not have seen in a really long time, and all that.
So I want to do some shout outs from people who are actually listening in.
Yes.
We have Brenda Miller here from Metro Detroit. Brenda was the first one that I did a LinkedIn Live with last week, and she told me all the things I shouldn't do, like don't go side to side there. And you're great, and I'm still working on stuff. But that's the good thing about that. We also have Sukin Sharian. I don't know where you're from India. Sorry about that. We have Jennifer Alexander from Texas. We have a best bud of ours, Mark Strano, who actually sent me a message last night saying, I'm sorry I missed it last night. But it was, we told him it was a test, but that was the funny thing about that. And then we have Barbara also here from on the way to the college tour for my son. I totally get that. I totally get that. So, a little bit about both of us. Both of us are very introverted. It probably doesn't seem that way the way we're talking now, but it takes time to build the relationship and talk to people and get out of your comfort zone. I think when we started this, I love the idea of on LinkedIn and being able to post stuff and not have to really put myself out there as much. But the more I did, the more comfortable I felt talking to people. But back in the day, pre-COVID, I would go to those networking events and I'd be so afraid to talk to someone. So afraid. I'd be the wallflower. I'd be like, get me out of here, get me out of here. And I would probably end up finding someone once in a while to work with. But then this became a great mechanism. And I got to tell you, Nancy, I don't think we've ever met in person. I'm trying to think, did we maybe meet at the Breakfast Club or somewhere else?
I did go to the Breakfast Club, I think 3 times before COVID. And I did go to the LinkedIn local once, but I didn't really know you because Michelle Norton told me about it.
That's the funny thing.
Yes.
This is over. I cannot wait, and I've actually told Morty Latman that we should all just get together and have a barbecue once we're all comfortable, something like that. But I think the important thing for everyone to remember is it took me 4 tries to get LinkedIn Live, and I was scared to death. And at one point, I decided I didn't even want to do it because I would have nothing to say. And I went to everyone else's, and LinkedIn tells you not to make this about LinkedIn. So I don't want to, but I want people to talk a little bit about their LinkedIn experiences. Like Nancy, you started out not sure what to post. Now you're a rock star, and eventually you'll get on this list, hopefully. But then you started with your thing every day about the images in the background. And then I said to you one day, that'd be a great book or a great thing.
Yes, I agree. Do I include my picture in with the background? Or do I just do the background?
Well, we could ask the audience that to see what they think. I mean, Nancy has the great reputation of being a great smiley person. So Mark says, I don't know which I like more, Nancy's backgrounds, wink, wink.
Thank you, Mark.
We have a thing here, again, because we're in a state which is kind of small, we think we all probably know each other a little bit, but it's when we get out of our comfort zone. And some of the shyest people in the world you would never know are shy. Yeah. But it takes time. You build a relationship and you feel comfortable talking about things. So a little bit about yourself, Nancy. Why don't you talk a little bit about what your background is, and because I know you recently landed a job. And you talk a little bit about that. That would be really helpful because you also, you had some, pros and, good and bad. So if you could share a little bit about that, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. The funny thing is, so my job was eliminated before COVID, and I said, okay, I'm going to take some time off. I had a good severance package, and I went on a cruise first week in March that year, 2020, and thank God nothing bad happened. We got back, we opened the shop one day, and then the whole world shut down. And it was crazy. And then fortunately, I think the first group that went online was JVS, Jewish Vocational Service. So they did their meeting online, and that was a reason to get out of bed. And then I discovered all these other great networking things. So the funny thing is, you hear, networking. You definitely, I mean, me personally, before this job, most of my jobs were gotten through networking. And the funny thing is, this job, even though I now know all these people and I got all sorts of referrals to things, this job I actually found on ZipRecruiter, of all things. So you never know. Some of the job boards still work. There's a good thing called hired.com that actually you put your info on and they'll match you. And I've gotten a lot of interview requests through that. So I landed about beginning of May, and the company is called TDI Technologies, and they do a lot of government contracts and things like that. And so far, so good. It's a really nice, small company. And my boss is awesome, in case he's listening later. But no, he really is awesome. I said, I've been here 2 months. Can you believe I've been here 2 months already? He said, honestly, it feels like you've been part of the team forever. So that was really nice. And I feel that way too. It's a great team.
I think what's really great as I've gotten to know you and so many others is being able to understand and share some of our experiences, because I know that a lot of the people out there feel so alone. And I think as an introvert, sometimes you feel that way. And to be able to share not just the positives, but the negatives helps so much. I mean, we've all had our downtime. And I think, and I actually said this once as an introvert, as bad as it was during COVID, I actually didn't mind some parts of it because I didn't have to go out and go to networking events and stuff. So, I mean, that may come across the wrong way, but you kind of love that time. And I definitely need my time at some point just to kind of kick back and just chill.
Yes. Well, that's an introvert thing, is really, it's the energy. Introverts get their energy from being alone, and extroverts get it usually really from being around people. So
yeah,
I know I definitely recharge when I'm alone.
I mean, I've gotten together with some extroverts, and I cannot keep up with them sometimes. they're going a mile a minute, and I don't know if they're on the call or not, but I think it's a great balance though, because it got me out of my shell, which was the main thing. And then, even then taking it to the next level, being able to talk to people and learn from people. It's so important. I actually did a hashtag Introverts Unite, and it's a cool one. And it's just a branding thing as much as anything else. So is there any specific advice that you could have for people that are really trying to get out of their shells?
I mean, I would say definitely attend. What's nice is if you can find like a small group networking type of thing where they put you in breakout rooms, let's say, with people, and then you get to meet, on a smaller side, maybe 3-4 people, and then pick somebody who you find interesting and just, reach out to them and say, hey, would you like to have just a chat, a conversation? And you can schedule a virtual coffee, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just, I've met so many people I would have never met. And the funny thing is, people far away, but I also have met people who lives around the block from me. Who knew? So.
Well, we even had that conversation about Zadie's, which is the bakery in Fairlawn. A couple of people on the call may know what we're talking about. It's a delicious bakery, and it happens to be really close to where you live. I know you live in Fairlawn, which is where it is, and just by my mouth. And it's all about learning things about people. I'm constantly learning, and I think one of the challenges that we all have is not being afraid to try something. I mean, I have failed at so many things in my life, and you learn from those mistakes probably more than everything else, for sure. I mean, I love the comment that Brenda made last week. She said, you're going to do these. They're not all going to work. Sometimes there's going to be a blip in the middle, but you just go with the flow. And that's the important thing.
Yes, no, I completely agree. I mean, it really, having all these virtual things really has helped me so much. So now when I go to the Breakfast Club in person, I now know so many of the people that I won't feel uncomfortable at all. It's going to be completely different.
It is. And actually, when you come, I can't wait to see what you're going to bring, because of course the Breakfast Club, when people learn,
they have to bring something.
So Christine, actually, I'm going to put this up here. Christine, I met Nancy at her shop, and think her and her hubby are great, and so is their shop. A little bit of a plug and a shout out for that.
Thank you, Christine.
I've been really, yeah. Christine's out in Central Jersey, and I have it on my to-do list to get down to a networking event there. And that's the other thing about New Jersey. She's down the shore.
Yes.
Not down to the shore, not the New Jersey shore. There are certain things that we have in this state. So it's down the shore. That's just one of those things. And I think also being comfortable in your own skin makes a big difference. Now, I don't know how tall Nancy is. I don't know if she realizes how tall I am, but that's going to be a thing when we get together. We'll see.
I am not tall. I am not. I'm about 5'3". My husband is 6'5", though.
And I'm
So
6'5" too. So we're going to be kind of like really, but that's the thing, which is so true. I mean, you don't really know. I've met some of the people, but when I'm going to see people, I'm going to look up, I'm going to look down, and they're going to be right here.
it is very different. I mean, at least you can see people. I remember back when I first started working, there was a woman I spoke to on the phone a million times. And then I met her in person, and she was nothing like I pictured. So at least with this, we know people's faces, but you're right. It's going to be, it's so different.
So the other thing that we seem to have in common is comedy. You go to different comedy clubs and things. I don't know if you would ever go on stage or not, but that would be very interesting. How did you get that love of comedy?
So the funny thing is, I had gone to comedy shows here and there throughout my life, and my husband moved here from Long Island. We're both originally from Long Island. We grew up in East Meadow, and we went to the East Rutherford Street Fair, and Uncle Floyd was performing. And my husband used to watch the show back in the day. So we went up to him after he performed and found out he was playing at a restaurant called Colucci's every week. So we started going, and with my husband, you either do it all or you don't. So we went pretty much every week unless we were away. And we became friendly with him, and a young, well, he's not young, he's about our age, but a guy who was starting out in comedy. Floyd would have people go up and sing or do whatever. And this guy, Tom, went up and he did comedy, and he was not very good at first, but he really, he's come a long way. He's so much better now. But it was funny because my husband said, well, why don't we ask him to sit with us? Because he didn't know anyone else there. So next thing you know, we become friends. He takes us to Scotty's Pub and Comedy Cove in Springfield, New Jersey, because he was taking their comedy class. And the next thing you know, we're following comedians to shows, and now we're regulars at Scotty's. We know the owners, Gene and L'Oreal, and it's just now we know so many comedians. I mean, mostly local New Jersey, New York comedians, but it's a lot of fun. And wait, the best though is, so small world story. I went to Scotty's one night, and the comedian Mike Warsaw comes up to me and he says, how do you know my nephew? I said, who's your nephew? And he said, first I said, oh, who's your nephew? He's like, well, he's my nephew. I said, well, how are you related? And he said, oh, he's my nephew. My wife is married to his, to his wife. I'm sorry, his sister is married to Ken. So I'm like, and this is all because Adam had a birthday. Right. Ken wished him happy birthday, so I wished Adam a happy birthday, and Mike saw it. Right. And the next thing you know, it's like, what a small world. So Ken is married to Mike's sister.
Yes.
So what are the odds?
And she's actually as extroverted as I'm introverted, so that probably makes a big difference. Yeah. I've kind of learned that way. I think for me, what I'm finding probably the most challenging is staying in my place. I can't be something I'm not. Right. Everyone says you're not an introvert. I am an introvert. Trust me. So I'm going to put some comments up right now from the folks. Mark said, many of us introverts have become fortunate Zoomverts. I think there's going to be a lot of great things along those lines. Drew, I am definitely an extroverted introvert. And then Christine said, I agree, Drew. I think Mark said it perfectly. Zoom has made us convert and socialize, but in general, in person, we are wallflowers. I got to tell you, I'm the person that when family gets together, I know the family, but I get real overwhelmed with 30 or 35 people in the room, and I'm like being pulled in multiple directions. And I just was like, I just need time to chill. Yeah. And I think it's ironic because that introvert post that I put up there on LinkedIn was probably one of the most viewed posts I ever did. And I think that speaks to the idea that when you write something on LinkedIn, you can be genuine. It does not have to be I'm looking for a job. It doesn't have to be, this is what I do. I mean, Nancy, your posts every day with the Zoom art of the day. And I have, again, I have no idea where you're getting them from, all that, but it's such, I look forward to it.
Yeah, just they come out of my brain. I don't even know when I just, I have a thing for color, I guess, and I just,
So what I wonder about is, do you think that all this chatting and the like has helped you with interviewing and other things and getting up and, because that's the way I look at it too. It's good practice for interviewing and doing presentations. Has that helped for you?
Yes, I definitely think it has. When I interviewed for my current job, I met with the recruiter, internal recruiter, and my boss. And the funny thing was, so it was Zoom, and I'm so used to having my camera on, in Zoom sessions from all my job search and other networking things, that I had my camera on. So they said, "Oh, well, I guess if you have your camera on, we'll turn ours on." And, so it was really just like a conversation. And my boss did ask me a few sort of technical related things, how would you do this? And that was good. And everything else, we got along. It was like a conversation. And I don't know if I would have felt as comfortable having it like a conversation like that back in the old days, because I might have just only answered the questions they asked. Whereas now I feel comfortable. They ask the question, but then I can add other information as I want to add. And you get that connection when you find, you may have things in common with the interviewers.
Definitely. I think, for me especially, and I've said this many times before, I'm okay with criticism. I know right now I have to do a better job with lighting. So anyone who's thinking about that messaging on the side, I get it. I totally do. But these are the things you work on, I've gone to different rooms, and I think it's important to own what you need to do and be comfortable in it, because so many people out there, I mean, I know that we're both genuine, and so are a lot of other people, but you just want to do what makes sense for you, because it carries through life. I think a lot of people, I can't wait to meet a lot of people. I've talked for a long time about a virtual road trip, which is going to be an in-person road trip. And I've decided the best way to do that is to look at the baseball schedule next year and just coordinate between all the different teams. Some of the Tigers are there. I'm going to go see Brenda. Bulls or White Sox. And actually, I'm going to see Lauren probably in New York in November. But that's going to be the fun thing, trying to figure out where everyone is. Jeff Young, Kevin, all them. And I see we have Alex on the call. Yay, Alex Freund, the landing expert. One may be an introvert, but in some situations or conditions, he or she may exhibit extrovert behaviors, and that's absolutely true. Alex is probably closest to Rudy Lamont to a mentor that I have. I know that he may get a little bit shy about that, but it's true, because when I knew who he was back in 2010, 2011. I saw him for the first time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so afraid of this guy. He's Alex Freund. And I just was like, I don't know what to say. And he came up to me, and I'm like, oh my God, you're talking to me? But that's what happens. It's you realize after a while that you try things, and then you get to know people, for sure. So how can everyone help you out, Nancy? Besides, I mean, is there any advice? I mean, I don't know if you do what you do online, if your store is available online to have stuff purchased or anything, or.
So for now, we don't really have an online shop, because every item is unique, and that would just be a ton of work. So, but what we do is we'll post things on Instagram. We do have an Instagram. It's Iggy's Curiosity Shop. And that's Iggy's is with an IE instead of Y. And we post things, and I have had people say, hey, how much is that? And people have purchased things that way, but it's not like you can go click and purchase something.
So how'd you come up with the name Iggy?
So Uncle Floyd, it all goes back to that, is he had a puppet named Oogie on his show. He doesn't really he doesn't bring Oogie out anymore, but my husband wanted to get an Oogie. So we ended up finding a doll that was a doll. It's a ventriloquist puppet. Very similar. It's the same company. and he looks a lot like Oogie, but different color hair, and he has legs and whatever. And so we couldn't name him Oogie, so we decided to name him Iggy. And the shop, when we opened the shop, we said, you know what, we'll just name the shop Iggy's Curiosity Shop. So, just something fun. I didn't want to call it something antique shop because we have a lot more than just antiques. And and my husband actually does the voice for Iggy.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We actually do have a YouTube channel also. So from iggy'scuriosityshop.com, we have links to all of our social media. And on there, we have a few things he did. We were actually on a friend of ours, Donna V. She's a comedian. And we did her online Zoom show during pandemic. So, you could see Iggy in action on that. But it's just a lot of fun.
And Mark says your video tours show how amazing your shop is.
Yeah. Although I've learned I'm not good at, I don't know about how to take video, but I've heard that sometimes I moved the camera a little too fast. So people could get dizzy, but I'm getting better with that.
Yeah, I think it's such a great thing to get to know you and other people, because I know that we all are on LinkedIn and we all connect, we all have that relationship, but it's getting to know a little more about them. For sure, with that, being respectful, of course. I mean, I'm not gonna, and I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I look forward to meeting people, not just walking to people, not just seeing people, but actually meeting people and
getting past the, the little superficial small talk. Getting to actually, see what do you have in common, what they like, what they don't like.
So I think for me, when I've done, and there's a whole big discussion about this out there, is where do we see things going? When everything opens up, there's a big discussion about comfort level going back to work. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you work from home now, and it's in Philadelphia, I think, the area.
Yes, the client where my team worked before pandemic was at the Navy Yard in Philly, but everyone's been telecommuting. So probably a year ago, or before pandemic, they probably wouldn't have hired someone like me because I don't live there. But because everybody's been remote, I'm remote, and if I need to go there, it's drivable, so it's not like it's really far. And it's the whole telecommuting thing is just great because you save all that time not commuting, and then I find when it comes to teamwork, as long as everybody on the team wants to work with the rest of the team, it's not as good as being in person, but it's almost as good. So.
Yeah, I know that my son has yet to be in the office. He's a pharma PM, and he has yet to go into work. And I think the challenge, a lot of people bring up the same point. You want to be there every once in a while to meet people and talk to people, but sometimes it's a delicate balance. And we went full circle. Back a while ago, we all worked full time in the office, whether it's commuting to New York or somewhere else. And then this happened, we're all working from home. And I remember back then I wanted to have a hybrid. I wanted to be able to do a combination. And they said no, probably because they didn't trust you or whatever it was. Now you get comfortable. And they say, now we want you to go back to work. Well, I'm home for a while. I don't want to go. But you have to go, and then that becomes the what if. And I don't know the answer. I mean, one of my first full-time jobs, which I loved, they gave you the option of working 4 10 hours a day, and 4 10 hours a week instead of 5 at 8 hours. And I loved that because it gave me the opportunity to take a day off during the week and get stuff done. And I was probably working 10 hours anyway. So what?
Right, exactly. When I was at the Federal Reserve Bank, they had instituted eventually like a flex arrangement, and you would work a little extra, and you would get a day off every other week or every 4 weeks, depending on what you had. And that was, like you said, you could get things done. You could make doctor's appointments, things that you couldn't do on the weekend. You now had a day to do it during the week.
And I think also with technology, it's a lot easier now. We didn't have Zoom back then, and we didn't have as a robust the ability to stay in touch. but I get a kick out of it. And I think back now to all the Zoom meetings I had and all the please mute yourselves and all the, and
You're on mute.
that was one of my favorite posts of yours.
Which one?
Way back when you did a Zoom post. It was the first post I think of saw of yours. I don't remember exactly what the content was. It was a Zoom best practices or something like that. I don't know if you remember it, but it was so on point.
Well, and that's, I admit I haven't been posting as much since I've been working, but I still, I still try to post on a regular basis. But yeah, I would post things that, like Zoom. One of the things on Zoom that I don't like, I love that you can move people around, but you can't move the people's squares around if you've hidden non-video participants or if someone has their hand raised. And it's like, well, I can't help it if someone raises their hand, and then some people, they raise their hand in Zoom and then they ask their question and they don't unraise their hand. So you can't move the stuff around. But I'll post about that, and I've actually posted so that the Zoom people actually know that, hey, it would be really nice to be able to move things. So I post things that I experience because I figure other people are probably experiencing the same thing and they might want to know.
I did the same thing. I always tag LinkedIn help on some of the posts, and they've actually gone back to me, even though it may be boilerplate, because there are things, and the thing that drives me the craziest is getting all the spam like invitation or things, and we talk about that a lot. It's like, give me a spam mailbox or inbox so it can just go there. I don't even want to see it.
Right. Or let me create a rule that if I don't know the person, have it go to another folder, or like an email, you have that functionality. So I agree with that.
I mean, there's a whole, John Asperian actually has a whole laundry list of things he'd love to see LinkedIn do, and we kind of joke about it. It's like it's a wish list. Having gone to LinkedIn twice, I can tell you right now that they say they want to work with you, but of course it's lip service, but it is what it is. I mean, it's their bat and ball. We're just the people on the field.
Right. Exactly. So I do want to go back to, I will say one other way people can help is not just come to my shop if you can. We're open by appointment, so just let us know ahead of time and we'll be there for you. I am also putting my designs on sneakers, which I've done before, on Vans sneakers. And, I upload my design to their website and I design it, and then Vans prints them up. So I've done a few pairs already for myself. I just designed a new one, which I really liked, and posted, and people seem to like it. So, I'm thinking there might be something with that because people love custom sneakers. And I'm also thinking of putting the designs on notebooks, just a spiral bound, notebook. So people have a really cool cover on them, and you can have companies print them for you on demand for people.
So I got to ask, with COVID and the like, did you have the opportunity to do more of this creative stuff? Is that something, or was it going to happen anyway?
It did give me more time. I wasn't working, and COVID initially, when it first hit, like as we just come back from a cruise, and we had actually done a suite, an actual big suite on the cruise. We said, you know what, let's do this one time in our lives. It'll be really fun. So we just came off of this cruise. We had the suite. It was a Star Trek cruise too, so it was a lot of fun. The people there are very friendly because everybody's there for Star Trek, and they have actors from Star Trek and whatever. So we get home, and then that's when I was going to start looking for a job. And then the world shut down, and it was really depressing at first. But then, like I said, once JVS had their meeting online, and I discovered all these other, professional service groups in New Jersey to go to on Zoom, I got kind of back, my mindset was back to being better, and then I just kept not trying to not worry about money. Thank God I had money saved. And then I was finally able to do some creative stuff again. Once, your mind kind of has to be in the right place for that.
Yeah, I think in my case, the creative stuff was trying to figure out all the online stuff and trying to get used to it, because I mean, when I was in corporate and IT, we would have calls all the time. We'd have a team call, or we'd have something else. We'd be from all over the world, or we'd be in a WebEx. And it was just so hard because people would be texting each other. People would say, I can't believe that person said that and all that. And then all the connectivity issues. We spent 15 minutes waiting for the thing to work. And it's like, well, back and forth. Did you get the passcode? Did you get the passcode? What's the link? So that's what's good about stuff like Zoom and these things. It's very impromptu. And I know when we did this test last night, I mean, I had no worries about it working. But if you've never gone on a call like this, it can be a little bit overwhelming, the first time.
Well, even this morning when I went on, I had my PC. I actually started it up. I don't know if I shut it down last night. I might have just put it in sleep mode. So when I went on this morning to sign on for this, all of a sudden my camera didn't work. Very odd. So I had to reboot. So that's why you have to leave extra time in there just in case the technology doesn't cooperate that day.
Yep. Well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to end the call soon, if that's all right. I do want to mention that we are all working on a networking project. We can't leave the call without mentioning that. I mean, we're trying to build a whole networking event platform. And I think my hope with all of these future conversations is to learn as much about people, not just people that I really know, but people I just want to get to know better. And I appreciate you, Nancy, and for being the first official one, and Brenda for being the guinea pig last week, for sure. Because
thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is what it's all about. And I think, from what I understand, a lot more people are going to be getting LinkedIn Live now too. So don't be afraid to use it.
And I felt a lot more comfortable doing this than I thought I would.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I want people to feel at ease in general. It's not. That's why if I'm going to pepper you with a bunch of questions about this, like technical, what's the point? I mean, you want your guests to feel comfortable, and I don't know exactly where this is going to go, but I just want it to be a conversation, as much as anything else.
I agree.
So, is there anything else you wanted to say? Shout out.
No. Just, thanks for having me here, and we'll do it again sometime. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to do it.
Well, Sonal Bal is going to be on next week.
Yes.
I have Beth Granger coming up. I have Joey coming up as well, and that's going to be a very interesting conversation.
Yes, definitely.
But thanks a lot, everyone, for chatting this morning. Christine will be joining us in August. And I know she was afraid about what the topic was going to be. So, Christine, the topic is going to be whatever we want to talk about. Presentation. You don't have to go through the steps. It's just going to be a conversation with you and me and a bunch of people coming in and just listening and hoping that they enjoy it. And if you look at it that way, it's a lot better, too. It's just two of us talking with lots of people in the audience.
And I do have one last quick thing. It's funny that years ago, when HTML first came out and you could create your own web pages, I had my own web page, and I would just post things that were interesting to me or things I did. And I ended up somebody wrote about it in the Jersey Journal, which I don't think it exists anymore. But it was, he wrote about it, and in it he had that reading through my website, it was like joining a conversation of girlfriends gone global. And I kind of think of this like that because, people are everywhere nowadays, so I'm talking to people all over.
Absolutely. And I've made some great connections. I haven't even talked about Clubhouse yet because that's a whole different thing.
Yes.
I know Brenda and I talked a little bit about it last week, but I'm trying to master one thing at a time as much as possible.
Yes.
Because there's such thing as multitasking and then overload for sure. So
exactly. Cool.
All right, great. So it's a great conversation. Thanks a lot, everyone, for spending some time with us.
Thanks, everyone.
Connect with us. Stay in touch. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.